this is sort of out of nowhere, but the moment we finished recording the podcast, we saw the brand new WrestleMania logo. There's a couple of new things about it. Number one, there's a play button on it as opposed to a number. Number two, the logo's different. So apparently we're actually going to get that brand new logo. So I want to ask you, Ryan, did you see the new logo? What'd you think of it?
It was interesting because, first of all, you don't have a number on there or even Roman numerals or anything. They had just the play button and the network logo. So that's obviously a hint, nod to sort of the direction they're going to go with WrestleMania this year. Do you think they should have had a number or anything on there? Or are you okay with it just sort of saying WrestleMania?
I don't know. It's really weird because it feels like we're switching. I think that this will be the first WrestleMania of its kind. It's been about 3 years since we've been hearing about the WWE Network, so the fact that now we're getting this, I think we're going to see this serious shift of content and the way WrestleMania itself is structured, because if it's going to be included in the network for the subscribers, I don't think they're just going to do the average pay-per-view format, but that's just me.
I think part of it, because, WrestleMania has sort of changed. I was sort of saying before in a previous conversation we had that WrestleMania, it's becoming Super Bowl-like, as in, cities are bidding for this because it obviously brings in revenue to cities. So it's WrestleMania, if anything, is bigger than ever. But wrestling the rest of the year is obviously and has been in a slow decline for many years now. So it's sort of interesting how this one event, it's always been a big event, but it's interesting how you could argue it's bigger than it was in the Attitude Era now, as far as, the stadiums that they fill and the attendance that they get. So it's really interesting, this sort of weird dynamic, how their one event is just so big, but nobody wants to watch the rest of the year anymore. So it's just it's very strange how it is now.
I don't know if it's the nostalgia factor we talked about in the past, but when I think about even WrestleMania 21 and all the way back, WrestleMania 19, 17 that people loved, those were wrestling shows. It's called WrestleMania, but now it feels like it's a casual spectacle. It feels like we're not the target for that show anymore, and that's kind of sad. It feels like we get the Rumble, we get the Survivor Series, we get the SummerSlams, and even that in itself is, although we had a great one this year, but it seems like WrestleMania is not for us anymore. It's for that guy, as you mentioned, that, they don't watch wrestling, but they grew up watching it, so it's like, hey, let's order WrestleMania. Or it's just simply this really fun event. But it seems to have little to nothing to do with the show. Because one thing we talked, I don't remember if it was in a podcast or off air or something, but we talked about buys, and it doesn't make sense that WrestleMania gets so many more buys over every other pay-per-view. Because it's like, so where are those people the rest of the year? Is there really such a fan that only watches WrestleMania regardless of what's going on? Is that a thing? Because, we watch the product every week, so to me that just sounds ridiculous, but apparently that seems to be the case. What do you think about that?
I totally agree that it is this weird thing, because, they did just release pay-per-view numbers a few weeks ago, or maybe last week. We were looking at it where everyone saw the horrible buy rate for Battleground. But yeah, you look at the numbers for WrestleMania, and it's just astronomically higher than everything else. And in second place, of course, is the Royal Rumble. So I feel like those are the two big pay-per-views everyone sort of tunes in for. The Rumble, the match itself always sells that pay-per-view. And it's funny how WWE always, pegs SummerSlam as their second biggest show, when in actuality, Royal Rumble is always their second biggest show. But I do think you have those fans that maybe you got a lot of former fans from the past and the Attitude Era, or even like those lost WCW fans. Maybe they tune in for the two big shows and kind of tune out. If you do look at WrestleMania 29 and how it was structured, first of all, how you're saying certain shows weren't, this WrestleMania isn't really a wrestling show. Well, all they had time for at this WrestleMania actually was the wrestling, funny enough. But if you actually look at the structure, I see your point. All the sort of matches were very, if anyone was to just tune into Mania, could really kind of pick up on it. Nothing had any really intricate, complicated stories, if you think about it. I mean,
Exactly.
think about the World Heavyweight title match. It was a simple, basically Fox News incarnate as a wrestler versus the immigrant Del Rio, and then then you have Rock versus Cena, the two biggest names actively wrestling. And then the Undertaker thing is always a spectacle. So everything, there was no like storyline dating way back. I mean, the only one with history was the Rock Cena, really. So everything was just sort of plug and play, pick up and watch type of stuff, like very casual friendly. And smartly enough, they have to structure it like that because they know their audience.
I mean, we make fun of the fact that WWE has like this 3 to 6 month thing where after 3 to 6 months, something's magically forgotten. But it seems like that's no longer even the case. It seems like it's this astronomical thing where it's just it's the event. They live for the event. So it doesn't even matter what happened last week. It's just for WrestleMania. I'm talking about specifically about WrestleMania, which leads me to this question. Are we relevant to these shows? And by that I mean like are we the ones that invest a lot of time into the company? Is that show also for us, or are we not even the minority? We're just not in that picture.
Are you speaking just about WrestleMania or sort of in general?
Mostly about WrestleMania, simply because when you take into the account the buy rates and all that, although it's a general question, but I do want to focus on that because we're seeing that WrestleMania is always this click for the media. But then aside from that, aside from maybe SummerSlam, and that's because it's in California almost every year or something like that, like we don't really see this anywhere else, this promotion.
I think when it comes to WrestleMania, they want to appeal to as many people as possible. So I think the more hardcore internet wrestling fans, I think they do matter less when it comes to WrestleMania because they know that they're going to have a lot more eyes on them than they usually do. So they want to be appealing to a much broader audience. And the funny thing about it, though, is if you look at WrestleMania 29 specifically as a good example, think about that. They got they didn't get the biggest buy rate ever, but they did get one of their biggest this year. But think about how it ended. If you got all these eyes on your show, wouldn't you want to hook them in to watch Raw the next night? Wouldn't you want to leave it on some sort
Exactly.
of cliffhanger? It's like you got so many more people watching this right now than you have all year. Get them to watch tomorrow. But they really didn't do that. They kind of gave you a storybook ending, no reason to tune in, and lo and behold, I think they would have got a lot more fans if they watched Raw the next night because it was a hell of a show.
Exactly, but that's the point. It's like they live for the show. Now, honestly, we could be missing the bigger picture. Obviously, WWE has access to statistics and information that we have no access to. So maybe they realize that it doesn't matter how hard they try. Maybe most of these people won't tune into Raw no matter how hard they try. Mm-hmm. But it seems like they should at least try because even us, because that's the problem. Say hypothetically, they know the casual fans are not gonna watch Raw. Great, awesome. Now we go to Raw, but then there's nothing for us too. Because I remember we finished what I mean. You guys went to WrestleMania. I saw it with a group of friends, and we were all just sitting there like so what happens? I mean, nothing really. So we saw the Rock Cena again. It was a bad match. So yeah, Taker is still undefeated, but then where does that lead to? But there wasn't really anything there to make me go, okay, what's going to happen immediately? Because you're not going to see Taker until near next WrestleMania or something like that, and that frustrated me. So say hypothetically that is the scenario where we may be the exception to the rule now or something like that. Do you think this is where the WWE Network comes in to sort of keep us in?
I think, to keep us in, I don't think that's a worry of them at all. Doesn't matter how bad the product gets. Guess who's gonna stay around? The WWE Network, I think, is a way to change their pay-per-view structure I think it has a lot of positives. I don't think it's necessarily just to keep hardcore fans invested, although it certainly will. If they can get us paying $12 a month, committed to in 6 months at a time, then they're getting more money from us than they would otherwise, because people skip a lot of pay-per-views throughout the year. There's a lot of illegal streaming going on, and I think that a lot of that.
Really?
Yes. Ever heard of it? I think, honestly, I fully expect with the network's launch that will diminish, that the illegal streaming will diminish, because if you make something easy and accessible, people will buy it.
I think there's an even bigger picture here, because honestly, hypothetically, they could just make the pay-per-views $5 a month or something like that and make that an incentive. There's a problem, though. Pay-per-views happen once or twice a month, depending. But how many times, at least it's happened to me, where a friend comes over and they go, hey, let's watch something on Netflix. That can happen with the WWE Network. You can pull those people that are in your house, say you have your PS3 on or whatever the hell else it's available. It's like, hey, let's watch an old pay-per-view or something. Not only are you paying to watch the pay-per-views, you're paying people to consume more WWE content. Because, for example, for me, I don't really buy wrestling shirts, just because I don't really like most of the designs. Like, I have a Yes 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 shirt, but it's from like Barbershop Windows, so it's not even a WWE one. But yeah, I may get pay-per-views, but now because of the WWE Network, not only do I get that, there's consistent things that I can have there, that when a friend comes over, or I'm on the road, I'm having lunch somewhere, I put on the WWE app or network app or whatever, and I get to consume more stuff that others may get involved in. So that's where I think they're going. I could just be horribly overanalyzing this, but if they're investing so much goddamn time on this, if they bought so many wrestling video libraries, I think that's what's going to happen.
You mentioned with why don't they just make the pay-per-view $5? I think there's a big reason why they want to do these, like, $12 a month, 6-month commitment type of deal, and also if it's a recurring thing, even if it's a month-to-month recurring thing, they're getting $12 a month regardless. Whereas if they did a $5 a month, like, pay-per-view thing, you might be like, oh, I'll skip that one, watch the next one. But no, with this, they're getting your $12 every month, whether you watch it or not. So there's way more advantages to the network over a low pay-per-view cost.
So overall, I guess we could summarize it as the WWE Network is the brand new gym membership. You have it, so it makes you feel good, but you may not always go there. So remember, if you want to check out full episodes, you can go over to Bytethat.com. You can check out our Twitter feed. We tweet during Raw, or you can check us out over at iTunes by searching Byte That for subscriptions, reviews, and full shows.